I'm not getting any audio if there is any.
You hear me, Al?
How about now, Al?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. McCloskey is a resident of Douglas, Mass. And is currently attending the MPTC Certified Police Academy at Quinsigamond Community College. He is a graduate of Douglas High School and is currently working towards his college credits. He is also currently a part-time dispatcher for both the Sutton and Douglas Police Departments. We are looking forward to Jeremy's graduation from the Police Academy on May 2nd of this year, next month. And with your expected appointment tonight, we look forward to having him immediately begin our 12-week field training program after his academy graduation. His addition to our department roster will bring our number of sworn officers to 18 with 3 additional positions to fill. Does anyone have any questions for Jeremy tonight?
I don't. I just want to say I read your application and the written materials you submitted, and I thought you made some very thoughtful comments. I think you'd be joining a great department with a lot of really good leaders who can provide you some good mentorship. And anyone else from the board wish to comment?
Was Al trying to say something? I'm not sure.
No,
So,
I'm good.
okay. So Jeremy, we welcome you. I agree with everything that Andrew said as far as being qualified. You're joining a really, really good police department. So I think you're going to be glad that you made the decision to join Southborough.
I'll echo my colleagues' comments. We appreciate your interest in this position. And again, we think we got a great department and wish you the best success and long tenure in this department. Thank you.
Just welcome.
Al?
No, I'll ditto what everybody else has said, and welcome to Southborough.
All right. Is there anything else you wish to, say to the board or any questions for us? All right.
Is this your family sitting behind you? Okay.
Okay. So I move that the board appoint Jeremy McCloskey as a student police officer.
Second.
All those do a roll call vote. Dennington, aye.
Cook is aye.
Stivers, aye.
Landry, aye.
Hamilton, aye.
All right. Well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Virtual
Hey, Jeremy.
handshake from Al.
So our DPW director, does Bill live in Douglas or he worked in Douglas? Okay.
Worked in-
So Bill McCund, our current DPW, worked in Douglas before he came here. So we got now 2 Douglas. Yep.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So the next item on our agenda
I think they want to leave. Looking at us. What are they doing in
is,
Yeah, you folks can take off.
here? Don't have to stay.
yeah. Or if you want to hear about, building projects and learn a little about Southborough stuff. Okay.
Our meeting's very interesting, but we understand.
So I asked John to come in just to give us a quick update on, I know the agenda says just the townhouse project, but also, if you got a report on also the addition to the senior center, and I know Doug Peck is here too as well. So streetlights too. Yep, always interesting subject. Okay,
I'm really glad to say it's all good news again.
good.
I like coming to see you guys. Townhouse is just about done. Looks like we're going to be coming in under the $2 million mark, and we were originally budgeted for 2.238. So we haven't even had to hit the contingency, which is just fantastic.
And that includes the slate
That
roof.
includes your slate roof.
All right.
And it's looking great.
It does look fantastic. I must admit, this building really shines up quite well. We're hoping to have everything totally wrapped up within the next month, I'd say. here, and then we're going on some landscaping around it and, start getting ready for the 300th anniversary, basically.
That's great. This is all coming together at one time. You know, the
Yes.
park is being finished. It's all done. I thought I had it on. So the front door.
Yep.
What's laying over to the side, is the old door?
Yes, most likely out there, because I know Cliff may have removed it today, actually, was taking it out, so that may be gone.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna finish up the hardware on that. It's gonna be painted black on the outside. We're gonna seal up the inside, and we're good to go on that too. So it's fantastic. We're just waiting for a couple small little things at this point, and she's done.
That's great.
It really does look fantastic. The windows function quite easily actually to open, so I'm very pleased.
I think it looks beautiful. I love the copper. I know it, I know the patina will change on that, but I love the way it looks.
Yeah, it's a nice look for the town. It really is. I think it added a lot to the center of the town. So I think, you guys have something you can be very proud of for a long time, I think. We'll move on to the senior center. Again, that is coming out absolutely fantastic. We could not be more happy with the kids from Assabet. They are the nicest, most polite children, young adults, actually not children. They're young adults and they're great. Honestly, anything you ask, they are so polite, so respectful. They work hard. Their teachers are unbelievable. I can't say enough good things about that organization, seriously. If we have to do anything in the future, I would gladly and willingly use them without any hesitation whatsoever. So that room should be wrapped up, I'm gonna say by the end of the school year, no problem. They purchased some of the laminate floor the other day. I'm gonna reach out to the carpet installer for one half of the room gets carpeted, the other half gets laminate. So it's amazing. If you've poked your head, and I think Kathy, you said you poked your head in last week,
Mhm.
you're not gonna believe how nice it is. It is truly a top-notch room. So again, we're considering this one a real big win. And we're gonna move on to another big win. I talked to Bob Moran the other day at National Grid. They've hired an outside contractor, so we're anticipating that all the streetlights will be up probably within the next 6 weeks.
Wow.
They're staging, so we'll be wrapping that up real soon too. So as soon as we do that, we'll put it in for our check. We'll have the monies delivered. We like that too. So we should be good energy-wise this year as a result of that, no problem. I wasn't anticipating a big problem this year anyway, so I think that really wraps that up. So we should be in a good situation from a budget perspective on the energy side too.
That's great.
So overall, all good news.
So does the installation of the new lights, does that require any kind of coordination with the DPW or the?
Generally, what they do,
Traffic.
if they need to, if they'll determine when they need to get details and stuff, and they will take care of all that. That's all them. That's more the police department than the DPW in this case.
Okay,
So Grid will handle the whole thing.
Well, it's rid of their contractor at this point. That's all in their, purview.
And remind me, what's the energy savings that's going to cut like a third or a half or something? of the energy?
Sam, you have
It
to
was
read that.
$60,000.
It's a lot.
The number, I don't know how many kilowatt, but it was $60,000.
Substantial.
Yeah, it was 60,000
A year.
based on our
A year.
previous energy rate, and we've gone up a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm happy to say that we had locked in a little bit higher one, but we just locked in at a little bit lower one. So we're doing pretty well energy-wise right now.
this is our, the town aggregator contract, and that is not locked in for several years or?
This one is, we basically go through Constellation Energy.
Yeah.
This is not the town
It's
agreement
MMA.
contract.
Oh, okay.
MMA gets a different rate.
Oh, okay,
Unfortunately, homes cannot get as good a rate as the
Yep,
town
yep.
does, but they save the money via the town.
but the town MMA deal is now for several years at that rate, or is
We're
it
locked in
Yeah.
now till 2026, I believe.
a couple of years,
But
basically?
after double check,
Okay.
I believe it's 2020.
For a while, though, good.
That's the one that he did early because he got a good rate. It dipped, so we locked it in.
Yep.
And I'm gonna keep, about a year from now, I'm gonna start getting the rates daily again. Because as soon as we can lock out long-term, if we get a good dip, you wanna grab those dips when you can
Yep.
get them.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Just personnel, the National Grid guys on the trucks are fabulous. If they're explaining what they're doing, yada, yada, they're really, really nice.
It's a great organization, actually. They're very transparent and they want to answer your questions, I find.
So what are you gonna do next?
You're on a roll here.
Go to Disney World. Well, next, we've got a few projects this summer. We're gonna move down and start doing the trim and stuff on South Union. Start working on that building somewhat, and we're gonna keep busy. It never really slows down in facilities.
I'm sure it doesn't.
But that's all I have for tonight. So again, it's all good news. So.
Okay, and then, I was just kind of sketching out things to address at our April 23rd meeting, including, you know, ARPA. But you want to just give us a quick preview? I know you sent a letter, I think it was today, about your ARPA reallocation request.
Yes, for the senior center, there was $400,000 allocated for the addition. And, thanks to Assabet, right now, I'm anticipating we may hit 250. I'm not even sure if we're gonna hit 250. So I'm anticipating around $150,000 overage. What I would like to do is reallocate some of that. Basically, we want to get furnishings for the room we're doing down there. I already have 25,000 that had allocated in an article from a previous town meeting towards painting or siding of the senior center. And I'd like to use some of that money due to inflation. That's going to fall short. 25,000 is going to definitely be short at this point, I would say. So use some of that towards that. And I'd like to use some up here for the landscaping around the building. That would be a landscape engineer come in, give us some suggestions. You know, we want to try to put things that look right for the building. You guys have put a lot of money into this. Let's make sure this finished product's what we want it to be in the end. So those are three things I don't anticipate needing the full amount. And I would try to get my stuff done as quickly as possible so I can turn the rest back to you. So you guys can allocate it somewhere else after that.
If anyone's looked at the building from the outside recently, it definitely needs a good paint job, so.
And I think I had mentioned to Kathy earlier, you know, I would look at two possibilities, painting or siding of Court of the Hall. If you're talking negligible difference in price, I would highly recommend the siding. It's a much more long-lasting
Yep.
product.
Yep.
And then, you know, I think it would be helpful also for us to consider to just get some ballpark pricing for some of the line items that you have in mind.
It should be relatively easy. Well, I can ask Chris Roy for the numbers up here. The painting's gonna be the tougher one because that one's gonna really have to go out to bid. Painting and siding, that's gonna have to be a bid one.
Okay,
But the furniture and stuff, that should be relatively easy. We can get a ballpark on that.
Because if we've got some even left over from that, we've got good uses of it, so
Yeah,
it'd be nice to
that's-
be able to
yeah,
use some
would
of
be
it
a
elsewhere
ton.
if there is money left over.
Exactly.
And that would be my goal, to get it done as quickly as possible because I know you're gonna want the funds back.
Yep, okay. All right,
All right, that's what I got.
Good.
Right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
okay,
Great night.
Thanks, you too.
good night.
okay. And the next item on the agenda is an update from Chelsea about situation, a Board of Health situation on 200 Southville Road. And, you know, I've reviewed the materials in the packet. I'm not really as that familiar with it, other than that I just drove by the property, you know, on my way over here.
Sure. So I'm Chelsea Malinowski, Chair of the Board of Health, and I may have a quorum online. If you don't mind. joining.
Yeah, Liz Zulik is online.
Yes.
And
Okay, so I'm going
Heather.
to call the Southborough Board of Health meeting to order at 6:47 PM. I did post a meeting. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background because this is a little bit unusual that I would be requesting to come before you for a housing complaint. But historically, we've had a housing inspector since 2021 when we got the Greater Boroughs Grant, which I think most of you are familiar with. Prior to that, I can't speak to what we were doing for housing because I wasn't on the board and we did not have an employee who was dedicated to that. So Michael Seeger is currently our housing inspector. And normally what happens when we get a housing complaint is we work collaboratively with any town employee needed throughout that complaint. And that's how it historically worked with the building commissioner who left a little over a year ago, as well as fire, senior center sometimes gets involved. So, and it kind of stays under the radar. We try to resolve whatever issues we can with homeowners, tenants, and whoever else is involved. This case is a little bit different. There was the original complaint, as you can see in your packet, was addressed by Ray in the building department in November of 2022 via a notice that there was a zoning code infraction. And he doesn't actually reference the code, but it's 174.8 in the building code of not being able to have a temporary dwelling occupied for more than 30 days within a year. There was no other follow-up to the building from the building department that I'm aware of that we could come across. And Board of Health was notified last summer from a neighbor about a concern with a temporary dwelling from a housing perspective, given that it's a temporary dwelling and there was no evidence or any seen evidence of any sewage disposal, and there was a hose running into the temporary dwelling. So we sent a letter, a certified letter, which is in your packet, requesting that they contact the Board of Health. We did not hear back on that. We sent a follow-up letter in August, requesting that they attend a meeting. So we have not, unfortunately, had any communication with the homeowner. Normally, we would have had that by this point, but there was no response to that communication. And at that point, we engaged with the building department again to say, can you please, and town council has been involved with the Board of Health since last summer on this. And I know Attorney Lyden is on the Zoom as well, if there's any questions. But her suggestion was, if you have housing infractions as well as zoning, that you work collaboratively with both boards and departments to make sure that you're enforcing it at the same time. And unfortunately, the former building commissioner that just resigned was not willing to collaborate with us on this housing complaint. He did not believe that there was enough evidence for to prove that somebody was actually residing in that for the greater than 30 days in a year. Since then, the neighbor continues to call conservation, Board of Health, building, saying that there is somebody staying there on a regular basis. So I come before you tonight. I had requested this meeting prior to the building commissioner resigning, really for two reasons. One, to make you aware of the situation, and that I think we do need to address this, because I am concerned, at least from a housing perspective, that we have somebody living in not great conditions. And secondly, that we as a town need to do a better job of collaborating when we have these types of situations, because it's always worked really well, and it hasn't in the last year. So we really need to do a better job of making sure that we're in lockstep and that, you know, we're doing the best for the residents.
Okay, I mean, just one quick thought I had is, you know, one of the items on our agenda is appointment of the interim building commissioner. And one simple thing we could do is make the interim building commissioner aware of the situation.
Mhm.
And request that he follow up
Yep.
actively. Has he been involved at all, the interim building inspector, in this?
Not to my knowledge. No, I think it kind of stopped at the
Former.
former. Yeah.
So there's been a communication sent to that house
Yeah.
and
I
no one's
have-
responded at all?
Yeah, I have, right. I have the two certified returns, 3 certified returns, and no communication. And unfortunately, we can't get access to the property because the complaint did not come from a tenant inside. That's usually what happens, is a tenant complains, but this was a neighbor complaining versus somebody actually living. So we don't have access to the property. So the pictures that are in the inspection report are actually from the abutters.
Is Mr. Anderson living in the house? I see he has a post office box.
Not that I'm aware of.
Do we have Mr. Anderson in the
I
audience?
think,
Oh,
all right.
great.
Do you want to come to the microphone, or another thing is the two of you, you could just
You want to just say-
talk directly. Um, And I don't know if we need to, I mean, if there's anything you want to comment on, or, because we need to have a whole, you know, discussion of this other than, okay.
Don't know why I'm here. I don't know what's going on.
Could you speak a little closer to the
I
microphone,
don't
please?
really know why I'm here. I don't really know what's going on except for what she said.
What caused you to come here tonight?
I know a lot of people in the town, and they said something was happening with me.
So did you get the letters that were sent to you certified?
I don't remember. No, I did not get any.
I think your signature's on the green cards.
Somebody did sign for it, yes. I don't know, maybe my, Debbie might have signed for it. whether I ever swing.
That's your wife?
Yep. No, that's my bookkeeper.
Okay.
Cause she gets all my mail.
Mhm.
All right, well, maybe there's a discussion that, you know, two of you can have
Right.
outside the meeting to help try to
That's fine.
move the situation along, and then, does that make
I-
sense?
Yep.
I am curious, is there someone living in this trailer?
Right now, no.
Has there been?
Yes.
So.
It's your trailer?
It is a trailer parked behind my garage. Yes, it is. The issue has always been not that someone's living in it, but that I have it from the next door neighbors, my neighbors. That is the main complaint that they have.
They just don't want a trailer sitting outside?
They don't want to see it, which if you drive by my house, you really can't see it. The neighbor can sort of see it. It's wedged in right behind my garage.
Yep.
And the issue is that they don't want to
Mhm,
look at it.
mhm.
That's 9/10 of the issue, right?
And Mr.
And the longer it goes on, I assume the more angry they get because they aren't getting justification through the town.
Mhm,
And that's why they keep complaining and
Mhm.
complaining.
mhm,
Otherwise,
mhm.
that's all that the issue is.
So how many letters were sent? So 3 letters and you didn't get any of them?
I didn't see him though.
I guess
That's fine.
I'd kind of, Mr. Dennington can
Yeah, I
correct my
think
memory on this.
So something, I thought you were gonna ask me a question, but I was just gonna suggest, I think we've accomplished something, and at least now we,
Connecting the parties,
you know,
but.
property owners aware of the situation, and then
Mhm.
maybe there's a dialogue you can have about how to resolve this issue, and then
But,
deal
Andrew,
with it in a more formal way.
I have a comment I'd like to
Yep.
make, Andrew. I mean, and Mr. Dennington and I have actually both been on the zoning board. And I'd point out that it's my understanding that actually having a trailer on your property is not a violation of the zoning bylaw.
There's no
But-
issue, I believe,
but-
right now with the building inspector.
Yeah.
I believe anything else. The only issue is, like I said, my neighbor not.
But there is a 30-day limit for
Yeah, that's
something for
new
trailers.
that I did not
Yeah.
Realize the 30 days.
And
Is that
so-
just is that just for the town of Southborough? Or is that a?
That's Southborough.
It's it
Oh,
was
you're,
adopted
oh,
in 1993.
Terry is, saying we get a,
Okay. Yeah. So that's the Southborough zoning bylaw. But the real issue for me is if there is anybody living in that is a health issue. And that I consider to be a much more serious situation. So again, I would hope that
It's a
you
health
can-
issue for the town of Southborough or the person who
Both.
usually stays there?
both actually, our Board of Health is in charge of making sure that the living conditions for people are safe. And that
Like
apparently
I
isn't.
said, there
So,
has been, the one person who occasionally stays there has no issues. But
So the 30 days is consecutive, it's 30 days during the year? It
During
doesn't
the
matter?
year,
the whole year.
during the
3
year.
days during the year.
Okay, so it doesn't matter which 30
So,
days. Okay.
I really think the best way to,
Yep.
at least to deal with this would be a
Let them
more, you know, a
work it
Board
out.
of Health hearing or a ZBA hearing where you have notice, you know what's going on. I know here you did, you know, looks like you got some notice and then, or you didn't get it, but I mean, now you're aware of the situation, and then there can be some future scheduled date where it's
Yeah.
dealt with. Everyone knows what's going
Yep.
on and gets prepared.
Is
rather
that
than
okay with
ask
you,
a bunch of
Chelsea?
Questions now.
Yeah, I think just as long as we have access to Jean, who you're going to appoint later, and we can do it jointly, then that's fine. I just, yeah, I mean, I had posted meetings on this on my agenda, so I guess your friends didn't know that one, but
Good. But
Yeah.
I would comment, I consider the person living there under those circumstances as a very serious issue that we need to deal with very actively and aggressively. So hopefully you'll work that out. Okay.
All right.
There must be somebody.
Oh, yeah, Liz has her hand
Zulik has
raised.
her hand up, yes.
go ahead, Liz.
I just wanted to make a comment. Sorry, like, I don't know why my camera's not on, but I just wanted to make a comment that the Conservation Commission is also reviewing this case due to Conservation Commission violations that we're reviewing. So in addition to the Board of Health side, I just want to ensure that we're all in alignment, that there are also Conservation Commission meeting that'll be upcoming discussing this property as well.
And-
So
and the
just,
Excuse me, Liz, the issue there is filled in wetland area behind the house there. Is that correct?
correct. And then if people are living there, questions around waste disposal in a wetland area as well. And if there is indeed usage happening to the property that is non-residential related, that's commercial usage.
All right, so
All right.
hopefully Board of Health can take point on that and get that sorted out.
Great.
Thank you.
Tonight.
Okay,
I'm going to adjourn the Southborough Board of Health meeting at 6:59.
okay.
I lost Liz.
Just waiting for a second.
No, Liz is still there.
No, she needs her other Board of Health member.
I
Liz,
thought
any
it's
second?
3, so 2 is a quorum.
Second,
Yeah.
All right, Malinowski, aye.
Zulek, aye.
Great. Thank you.
Officially,
everyone.
okay,
Enjoy your evening.
thank you.
Thanks.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you again.
I had a question for Wayne before he goes. You run a small business in Southborough, right? And is your office in that building?
Actually, I have a office. No,
Okay, that's fine. But you've run a small business in Southborough
I've
for,
been running that since 91 years.
thank you.
All right. Okay. Doug, would you like to come up? And do you have another member of the, okay, do you want, would you like to come up too?
Mary Ann, you want to come?
Okay,
He's gonna sit back there?
All all right.
You're on your own.
Okay, extra set of years.
So the
Part of the church, part of the board as well.
so Doug had, the background to this is Doug had reached out to me, I don't know, 4 months ago, just, which I really appreciated, just to, give an update on, we talked about the things that Council on Aging is doing. And, I think we all remember, it wasn't at the budget summit last year, I mean, in this January, but the prior January, where there was a army or a contingent of about 50 people that came out from the senior center and the Council on Aging to support their request for, I believe it was just, a couple additional hours, right? For,
Cindy.
yeah, for Cindy. And, so I just thought it was good to, we had a good discussion and you have some ideas about kind of longer term range things that the Council on Aging could be doing. And I know we talked about, is there any way you think the select board can help? So I thought there would just be value in you coming to speak to everyone directly, have the same kind of conversation that we had.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, one of my goals is really to be both very transparent, but also to really go into areas that we collaborate more. As a matter of fact, I have a new program. Mark was my first guest, called Southborough Connects on SAM. And I'm doing, I'm doing 2 a month for April, May, and then take in June, and take July, August off and go back again. I'm hoping to highlight officials from the town to get people aware of who they are. We have a new police chief, there's transition in the fire department, there's you folks, there's people on various committees that a lot of the people that watch cable who tend to be more senior citizens, should be aware. I started a program with Arthur Bergeron, who was an elder law attorney in Westboro, and we did that together probably for almost 4 years. And so this is sort of an offshoot of that now that I'm chairperson of the council. I think it's good for everybody to get to know everybody else. Some of my goals is to work more closely with like the rec department, like family services, because family services, they have the only social worker. And that's becoming apparent. I know we are dealing with folks that are older, and we're dealing with other issues that we're not used to handling. And we need to know what kind of resources we have in town, and they need to know about us as well. So, that's some of the things we're looking at. One of the others is I talked to both you and Kathy about was a number of the towns have done a town-wide assessment. It's done by a division of Mass Boston. It's called, it's actually the Massachusetts Gerontological Association. And it really is about a 9-month in-depth study interviewing you folks, interviewing various members of the town, doing surveys, doing survey groups and individuals, to understand the demographics, what's going on, coming up in the next 5 years. Because it's quite evident that, I'm part of the growing population in town. We're growing at double-digit rates. And the younger folks, the K-8 stat kids and others are growing at single digits, low single digits in some cases. And that really is not just affecting Southborough. I mean, 1 in 6 people in Massachusetts are over 65. That's a very high number. We have more over 65 than we do under 20. So, that's going to, that causes a lot of things to happen. And I think we really need to be aware of what some of the trends are, have somebody come in to look at it objectively that hasn't any dog in the fight and say, hey, here's the situation, and here are some of our recommendations, but it's up to you folks to decide what to do. It really involves everybody in town, particularly everybody on the board, so they understand what's going on. They've done it now for over 50 towns in Massachusetts. Westboro has completed one. As a matter of fact, I have an example here of they're actually, their plan is about 90 pages long, but they have a very thorough, if I can leave this for you, if you want to, a needs assessment implementation plan that the town developed after this was over. So it takes about, again, roughly 6 to 9 months that they do it. They're really pretty busy. We probably couldn't get it done before maybe the fall of next year, of this year, because they have limited capacity, and they do a very, very thorough job. They came and I went to the presentation that they gave to all the Westboro town at the senior center. There was probably 60 or 70 people at least there, and they did a slide presentation of what's going on. It's really worthwhile. Having been involved in looking at the various schools and people saying, do we do this for Neary? Do we do that for Woodward? And going through all of that, I think the nice thing about this is that it's all encompassing. It gives you a roadmap of what's going to happen demographically in town. And for, a business person, you really need to understand your customers. You at least have to understand how old they are. If you're designing, if you have, if you've got 3,000 customers, and you think, 1,500 of those are teenagers, you're going to design something different than if they're 65 or 70. Simply have people that want to stay in their homes longer and are aging in place longer. I gave a presentation today at an assisted living in Needham. I had about 10 people there. 3 of them were in their early 90s. So there's no doubt about it, that we are living longer and healthier, and the needs change as we age. 90-year-old person needs different things than a 70-year-old person. But the nice thing about population is that it's really pretty predictable. Not like the weather where people can say, it's going to change, or we're predicting this because we got so many warm days. You have X number of people that are 70, in so many years, there's going to be X number of people that are 80. It's just going to keep going on and on. So it's not rocket science to know in 5 or 6 years, within pretty good scope of where you're going to be, demographically. And I just think that's really necessary for the town to understand that, to make decisions about, do we really need extra police? Do we need a dispatch center? Everything gets affected by who you have in town and what their needs are.
Doug,
Go ahead.
is it going to do more than just do the demographic piece? Are they going to ask people questions as far as what they need in the town?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna, if you look at the, I didn't print it off, it kills my printer, but you can go online to Westboro And theirs is online, and you can take a look through it and see what it does encompass.
Mhm.
But I think what I just passed around gives you a snapshot view, because this is what they're going to be doing in the next couple of years. So you can get a pretty good idea just from looking at this, what they are going to be addressing and how.
I do have a couple of questions about this.
Can you check with this group and see when they could do it and what the cost is, so we have those two facts?
I can give you an approximation of the cost, because it really is by what the population. I mean, I did check with them a few months ago, but again, it's been a few months now. And so I think they have had a lot of demand, because I go around to a lot of the senior centers. I know Charleston was in the midst of doing it. Hopkinton was in the midst of doing it. And Northborough, I'm not sure about Northborough. Sudbury's in the midst of doing it. So all the surrounding towns are beginning to do it. People have asked me, so why don't we just take the result? Well, their towns are different than us. You know, generally things are going to be the same, but we really need to look at the specifics. But I think as much as that, it really is an education for folks too, to understand who we have as a population and really understand that. I think that's really important for our elected officials to know. I'll give you an approximation. It'd probably be between 30 and 35,000.
So I'm singing to the choir when I say this, but it's worth reiterating. There was a committee formed, an ad hoc committee, to determine whether we could close a school based on the projected demographic population of the students, right? But as part of it, we did two different studies, and they both looked at the overall town. So we ended up with reports showing where we are going in the next few years. And just like you said, the shocking thing was not the students, it was the senior population, what it was going to grow to. I even said at the meeting when we were discussing it, I'm not shocked about the students. I am really shocked about the senior number. So we really need to deal with that. So that was a few years ago. So you're right. I think our number was 30% in 2030 was going to be seniors. I mean, 4 or 5 select board members are seniors. So yeah.
80% of us is
Yeah.
right there, actually.
I mean,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, you're seeing it. I think we really do need to focus on what our seniors are going to need, because it really is a really fast growing population. So
Who is this group, Senior Needs Assessment Implementation Working Group? Are they associated with a university
It
or
was UMass Boston.
UMass Boston?
Yes, typically the Center for Social and Demographic Research on Aging.
UMass Boston.
Hodgkin's is part of
Yeah.
UMass Boston.
Yeah. I think it is an interesting project, and I think it could be very useful. Having spent several decades as a consultant, I would observe that it is very standard for these kind of folks to have the template that they use. And we've seen in a variety of other circumstances where people have basically run their template for us and many other towns, and the answers are very similar. I have to believe that if you actually look at, pick, half a dozen towns around us and look at those results, you're going to get 90+% of the output that you would do from Southborough, as a matter of fact. So I think that could be a pretty interesting exercise to do that first and say, have we learned enough? Do we need to go back and do more? My bet is that we'll get most of what we need out of a survey that
I
way.
think what you get to hear though is from Southborough citizens.
Yeah.
They will do 2 mailings to everybody in town. They will do in-person interviews with all different types of focus groups.
Yeah.
Not just from the senior center, from you, from Mark,
Yeah.
from everybody in town. And I think you really get to know people better. I just don't, I think the problems are grossly the same, but I think, Southborough difference from Westborough, just even the number of people. What can we afford? What can they afford that we can't? I mean, they just spent
Sure.
how many million on a new senior center?
Yep. Yep.
So we don't have that luxury right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's as straightforward as that, to tell you the truth.
The other issue that occurs to me is drivability and ability to drive, because Southborough, unlike Westborough, you have to be able to drive, and
Right.
in Southborough, that's a huge thing, I know, for a lot of people.
It is.
Yep.
And we don't have the apartments that Westboro does, or the condos, or other things. So
Mhm.
there, for the money that I know has been spent on evaluation for the schools, et cetera, I don't think it's a huge number to get a really broad view and to get it right and get a starting point where everybody can agree that, okay, this is where we are, and then you're making decisions on where you going forward. And the people that you're working with, the capital committee and all the others have also know the same data and are really familiar with it. I think it just makes more sense to have that kind of consensus as you move forward.
Yeah, again, I'm not convinced of the value of it versus doing it on our own, but I'm one vote here. So, but I think the topic is interesting and it's important to recognize that and to make decisions based on that population shift as we go forward, certainly. So.
Al, do you have any questions or comments?
Good.
Okay.
So I'm happy to come back anytime. I mean,
Sure.
I'm planning on having Andrew and Kathy on one of my Silk Road Connects for people to put faces to names that they see and maybe some others at other times. So, I think it's important. I see the Council on Aging as being advocates. That's part of our mission for seniors. And I will just say, John has done a wonderful job on our new room. It really is going to look fantastic. The people there have been so good to work with them. I'm happy to hear something so far on the budget. We certainly need to do more in terms of intergeneration programs as well. I think they've done. I think they have learned a lot. I think a lot of our folks have a new respect for them as well. Because a lot of them, we're so spread out as citizens right now that there's not grandparents and grandkids are not always together. I know a lot of grandkids don't get to see their grandparents, but once or twice a month, a year. And so it's very different. And I think it's really important that they do. And I think some of the older generation have their view of teenagers is based on what they see on TV, which is, as we all know, not very accurate or flattering. So it's important to think about this. But thank you for asking me to come. Overall, I think the senior center is doing very well. We've got some bigger issues to deal with as well, in terms of our own people that may be retiring in the next 12 to 18 months. And that's going to be a big job to fill those.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so moving on to Chair's report, I thought I would just give the board quickly a sketch of preview of coming attractions, things that I think we can look forward to for the next meeting on the 23rd. Looking at ARPA disbursements, trying to make some progress, hopefully on sidewalks and, I know I see a connection there between if there's $150,000 opening up on the senior center and then he's looking for $30,000 potentially.
I see that connection too.
Yeah, okay. I also have an update on 120 Turnpike Road, the 40B application. As I think many of you know, the application kind of ground to a halt or temporary halt because of the issue with the special permit. That had previously been issued for the site of the proposed 40B that had a condition requiring the then owner to donate a portion of the property to the Conservation Commission. So Ferris has gone to the planning board and sought a modification of the site plan review to potentially facilitate something where there would be, donating other property in consideration of getting relief from that special permit. So I think it makes sense to haven't made up my mind about this yet, but to talk on the 23rd about if the select board wants to weigh in advance of the next planning board meeting on that, which is on the 29th. And
You don't want to talk about that tonight as far
well,
as?
it's not on the agenda, so.
Okay.
And then I think by the 23rd, Mark, right, we should have any feedback from planning, open space, et cetera, about the 61A parcels on North Harbor Road.
Yes.
All right. So I think that's all I've got from my chair's report. One other thing is Kathy and I will be doing office hours on April 9th. You
Me?
got a members report for
do.
Yuri?
I do. And I'm going to have the support going forward because
Understood.
this project is really
Are
starting
you
to
gonna
roll.
mention the meeting on April 11th?
I am.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to start off with that. So the next, so the Neary Building Committee has already had one public forum that was really, really poorly attended. If you count Sam and Chelsea Malinowski, I think there were 5 there. So this one is April 11th. So they canceled the schedule and moved it back so that hopefully we get more interest by then. So we're hoping it's going to be better attended, 7 o'clock at Trotter. And it's going to be the same format where the architects and the OPM are going to be there to answer any questions that parents, residents, whatever, come and want to inquire. The questions they won't have, we don't know what's going to cost yet because we don't know which one we're doing yet. We don't know if we're going to close the school. So those questions are still being worked on. However, that's going to happen pretty fast. On May 21st, we have to submit a document called a PDP that is going to probably eliminate some of the choices that the MSBA has asked us to look at, mainly whether we can add a grade to Woodward. The answer will be part of that submission. So once that happens, they're really going to know what are the choices as far as the grade configuration. And then they'll spend from May 21st until at least the end of July, maybe a little bit in August, to trying to look at all those choices, cost them out, do a rough design as far as where we're going based on what they think the committee is wanting to do. And then in August, we have to vote. The Neary Building Committee has to vote on which choice, and then that goes into the MSBA. And if the MSBA agrees, then we're off to the races as far as schematic design. And then you roll forward to next April, and we have a special town meeting where the town is asked to vote on the recommendation that has been made by the Neary Building Committee, and with the schematic design that, well, at that point should be finished. So this is all going to happen. I mean, we're talking a year to know where we're going to go with this project. So I just hope that we get a better turnout on the 11th, so that it looks like people are starting to get interested in making sure that they have plenty of input into this, because this is a big one.
Could I comment on that one?
Of course.
As one of the few attendees at the last forum, several things. One, this is a big deal. And anybody who actually has children in the school system, or anybody who pays for schools, which is basically everybody in town, should have an interest in figuring out what we're going to do about delivering education services over the next 20, 30 years here. This is a long-term decision, and there are some very good people working on this. Our consultants, our town committees are working on it hard, and a lot of options being considered. So folks have an opportunity to either learn about it, because it's going to come up to town meeting at some point here where there's going to be a sizable bill to pay probably. And so the more people know, the better informed they are. Second, it does affect how we deliver education services to our children. And there are some interesting educational choices that we're making here. And I think the school committee, school administration are doing a great job considering impacts of all the choices that we have. So very active conversation, but anybody, again, who's invested in this one way or another, either as a consumer or a bill payer, I think ought to be part of the process and take the opportunity to either ask questions or express opinions about it, because it's a sort of a generational decision that we're headed toward making here. So I would encourage people, as Kathy says, to plug in, get informed, and offer any comments you may have. Thanks.
Because if you don't get plugged in now and comment and let your position be known, then by the time we get to town meeting, it's too late. If you don't like it, then you vote no, but then, we've wasted all that time. Okay, so the last thing is there's several subcommittees that are being formed underneath the Neary Building Committee per MSBA protocol. And one of those is the Communications Subcommittee. It's got Roger Challen, Jason Malinowski, and I forget who the third one is. But anyway, they're about to stand up a separate website where all of the information on the project will be located. So it's very close to going live. So I'll make sure we get the link out to everybody once it's ready.
Will that be hosted on the town's website or
No, it's literally a separate website.
URL?
Yep, separate website. Denise is on there too with her. That makes sense. So anyway, okay, that's my report.
So just a couple of things. The one item I have on the agenda, I'm going to turn over to Ms. Hale, but before I get there, always lead with the good news. So, I wanted to make the board aware that, we've been notified, by, Sean Cronin at the Department of Revenue. The town's been awarded a community compact grant. If, you're familiar, we've done pretty well with these community compact grants. It's nice to have friends, state level, who are willing to help us out. So, Bill Cundiff, took the lead, to put together a regional grant with, Westboro and Hopkinton, to purchase a utility pipe inspection system, for drain pipes and for sewer pipes. Obviously, the sewer pipes don't affect us as much, but the drain pipes do, as you can see from some of the damage that we've had to our roads because of these failing, drainage pipes under them. We had asked for $140,000. They were able to give us 110. And the communities have decided that they will pitch in a little bit each out of the Chapter 90 money in order to make up the money that they need. So this is great that we're going to be able to be a little bit proactive. So instead of waiting for things to happen and cave in and fail, we'll be able to identify these issues earlier. So I just wanted to, give a kudos to Bill for his work on this and for helping to try and improve the infrastructure in Southborough and our neighboring communities.
So the three towns are going to share the system?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe we can loan it out and charge for other towns who might not have one too, so.
This is a great example of what we try to do, share things. When you don't need something year round, share it, rent it, whatever.
That's
Don't buy
great
it.
news.
Right.
Where does it live, the system?
I'm not
Doesn't
sure if
really
we've
matter.
decided where it's
Yeah.
going to live
Doesn't
yet.
matter as long as it travels where it
So,
needs to be. But This is
Um,
the kind of thing, though, again, you do once and you got the data. And these things don't, happen frequently
Right.
once you sort of know.
You
what the problem
continue to
is.
benchmark.
Yeah.
Nope, agreed. So, again, kudos to Bill, for working on this. Bill actually, I think, was away when the email came from, Mr. Cronin saying, well, if we can't fund the 140, can we do the 110? And I had to restrain myself. so I
No,
didn't
no,
respond on his behalf, say,
Hold it
yes,
for the whole thing.
we'll take this, we'll figure out the rest. So, that's good news. Second, the tricentennial celebration survey is up and live on the website. It's not a very long survey. It's fairly straightforward. Trying to get an understanding from people as to the types of events they may like to see as part of the tricentennial. Whether it's memorabilia, other merchandise that they may be interested in. Try to give the committee some idea of how they should be putting their resources forward. Also, how people like to be contacted. Do we want to do this in print, social media, email? So again, they're looking to try and get responses. I don't know if there's a date.
There isn't a deadline.
Okay.
We'll keep, gathering information for the
Yeah.
committee to review.
As soon as possible.
Yes.
Okay. And I had just moments ago, didn't quite get to it last week, the newest edition of the newsletter, Town Administrator newsletter was out. And we're making sure that hard copies are going to Colonial Gardens, Senior Center and Library. So we're still waiting for more people to come in and ask how they can get this. So, but we're doing well. That's all I have. And now Ms. Hale's got an update on One Stop.
So it's that time of year again where the one-stop grant application is nearing its deadline. As you might recall from past years, there is a short application called the expression.
Could I ask you to speak a little closer to the mic?
Oh, sure. Sorry, there. So the short application is due April 30th. That's what they call the expression of interest. And when you fill out that application, that gives the state agencies an opportunity to provide you some feedback. And you might, customize, your project a little bit. The full application is due June 5th, and that is, of course, much longer. It's not a requirement to do the expression of interest, but it really benefits us if we do that in advance and get some guidance from our state officials. Right now, we don't have an identified project per se, The Recreation Department was looking at some ADA access around some of our fields, but we believe we have another funding source for that. So Mr. Davis has stepped back from applying for the one-stop. On the EDC side, Mark and I have been talking and meeting with Leah Emerson quite a bit. One thing that she has really been trying to narrow down is perhaps, a wastewater study for our downtown district right here. And that would certainly open up a lot of things if we had something like that. She's done a really nice booklet that kind of summarizes what would be required. She's also pulled up a study from the town of West Newbury where they did do a centralized sewage treatment plant in their downtown district. But we wanted to, of course, get some feedback from the board. Was there something else you were thinking of that we should look at for the expression of interest? You will be meeting, next meeting will be just before the deadline for the expression of interest. So we wanted to come to the board as well and see if you had something you wanted us to focus on.
A couple of comments, Vanessa. I think great opportunity here. You might point, Leah, at town of Weston. They actually put a little, basically biological wastewater plant, basically a garden kind of thing there.
Okay.
That they did behind buildings downtown. Number of buildings downtown had failing septic systems. So they had many people downtown, like 15 or 20, who needed to invest in that. And they got together and put this plant behind the main street there. Leach Field was a parking lot, and a pretty neat little deal, in fact. Also, one of the things I've heard people talk about relative to these grants is the value of a regional approach. If you find something that 2 or 3 towns are interested in doing, I've heard at least anecdotally that often gets more attention, more success in the grant process. So I don't know what kind of things we might think about there. I know Westboro actually has a wastewater plan they're thinking about. Al and I had a chance to talk with their town manager briefly about that the other day. So if are things that we can think about, maybe transportation, for example, we've got the Metro West Region Transit Authority that goes through town. Marlboro actually has a transit operation that goes through town and might be a useful connection to the train station at rush hour times for commuters, for example. So maybe get things that can connect with at least one other town. I'm told sometimes raises the probability that you're going to win some bits of money there. So again, I don't have any specific ideas yet, but if people start thinking in that direction, that might be interesting.
Okay.
Well, we better start thinking quickly. I mean, she's
Yeah.
only got, and last year, remember, we didn't do the expression of interest, so we just went in with the grant. So
Correct.
I would like to do the expression of interest so
That's
we can get
good.
the feedback to
Several
try to have a better
things.
chance of getting it.
Yeah.
Would the gerontological study qualify as a
I don't think so,
possibility?
think
because
so.
it's really focused on planning and development and infrastructure. So we're going to look into that tomorrow, but my first sense is it may not qualify.
So the grant that Leah has thought about as far as the wastewater treatment in downtown, right? We're asking for money to do a study to tell us where to put it. I mean, obviously, they're not going to build it for us.
Right.
What size we need or whatever.
Yeah, so that's what we would end up with
yeah,
is this is how, this is where you could
Of
do
how
it.
it would work.
Okay.
Al has his hand up here.
How to
Al?
finance it too, maybe.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that wastewater, I think, would be a very productive thing to do. And particularly, you might, as Sam has mentioned, focus on intermunicipal facilities, a la Westboro, so that you might focus a grant on exploring how we might work with other towns to develop a regional wastewater capacity. Westboro already serves Shrewsbury and Hockington, and Sam and I did, in fact, I like to get my money's worth. So when we met with them on the rec, we buttonholed the town manager in Westboro about wastewater as well. But I think that's something it's long term. It's sort of 10+ years, but I think it's important to making us more attractive to commercial entities. We don't have a lot of restaurants. We don't have a lot of grocery stores. We don't have a lot of industrial facilities, all of which, of course, we can tax, which means we're perpetually shifting the tax burden onto the residents. And I think this is something we need to give some serious thought to.
I think he's got a great idea. And what if we just asked for money to study wastewater period in Southborough? And so they can include connecting with Westboro, include downtown, but don't limit it to downtown, don't limit it to Westboro. But truly just come to us and say, this is what you guys could do to try to increase the ability to attract business this
But,
town.
but as part of that too, you could reach out to town manager, town administrator, Westboro, Marlboro, Hopkinton, you name it, around us and say, are you folks interested in putting together a combined proposal for this with part of One Stop? I mean, that's the kind of thing, seems to me, could be pretty interesting for the state potentially. And maybe most of them will say no interest, or maybe they have, well, what about doing other projects in this area kind of thing? So
For sure.
you might find something that we hadn't thought of that could be interesting there. So.
Okay.
Why do you think the ones that have the multi-town?
I've heard people talk about the awards, and one of the conversations I heard EDC, Rob Anderson is part of mass development and keeps pretty close track on what wins and what doesn't win. And I've heard him say that often the combined proposals get more traction in
I
this
think
process.
that's why the community compact came through.
Yeah. If you look at, I mean, one simple thing, you look at what wins and try to figure out something that looks like
How
that
They did it.
and apply.
I'm just worried about the time to do
Yeah.
this, getting other
I will-
towns to agree that then, they boards have to agree. I just don't know, we're gonna have time this time. We should have started doing this,
Yeah,
in the
But,
fall.
but there's, you could get at least a high level of interest, say, no, we have no interest in these kind of things, or this is something we've talked about, so let's at least get it on the table maybe.
In the meantime, we need to get this in by April 30th.
Yep.
Right. The first application is fairly short, but we can start reaching out to those neighboring partners tomorrow.
Sure.
All right.
I just have one.
Good.
Just one comment. Last year, we did put in an application for, the revitalization, reuse of the old flag school out back here. I believe Ms. Hale had worked with Mr. Parent on that. It was, I thought it was a great idea. We've talked about reusing that space when it does become vacant. And I think that is something that we probably could put back in fairly easily. And I think it was something that, could get traction. Again, we don't want to put multiple things in the same category, which are then competing against each other. But I don't know of any other project that would compete against.
Mark, that's a good point. The most recent EDC meeting had a conversation about underutilized public buildings. And again, Rob Anderson is a great contact point. He actually is
yeah.
connected to that program. And maybe would have some suggestions about how we could actually pitch mass development specifically, because they've got money for that particular project. So maybe that's a mass development focus as opposed to community compact. I don't
Well,
know.
why can you do it both?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, but with the expression of interest, sometimes they may point you in that, they may say, you know what, we really think this is something that may not be good here, but it
Maybe
may be that
redirect
you could do this in, somewhere else, and here's put you in contact. So I think that direction would be helpful, even if
Good.
they're not going to consider us under
Okay.
the One Stop.
Good.
Well, I like the idea of just dusting that one off, right? And see what they say, and then focusing on some version of wastewater study here to help us figure out how to do it.
Right.
I just don't want the 30 days to go by and we're still talking about this. That's my problem now.
Yeah.
We need to be practical. What can we get done in the
Right.
next?
And-
That's
if-
why we wanted to come to you at this meeting
Yep.
Yep.
and not wait any longer.
Because if they tell us that, yeah, that's really not something we're going to be interested in, then we've not gone through the effort of putting together full application.
Right.
Which is much.
We can do something, we can just
Yep.
do basically a quick pitch, and they'll tell us whether it's got legs or not.
And by talking to our neighbors, we might find something that they're interested in that we haven't really thought about, or is maybe not our number one priority. But if it's two or three on our list, again, it makes sense to work together on some of those kind of things. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
great, thanks.
All right. So I'm going to turn to the consent agenda next. So I had hold on the March 19 minutes. I have some minor edits, and I also had I noticed like a typo type thing on the job description of the building commissioner. Any other?
Yeah, March 23rd for me as well. Matt.
Okay. So
Small
whole day.
change, yeah.
Any other holds?
There's only 3 things there.
That's right.
You held 2 of them.
Okay.
Okay.
So I move consent agenda items B C, Roman numeral 2 and C, Roman numeral 3.
Second,
Okay, Dennington, I.
Cook, eye.
Stivers, aye.
Hamilton, I.
Okay. And then, Sam, you want to go first on the minutes?
Okay, tiny ones. On the 19th, line 5, Mr. Purple has been promoted. It says town manager versus town administrator. Congratulations.
Yeah, it usually happens a lot verbally, but that is the first time I've seen it writing. It's not a bad look.
Yeah.
But-
There's a
Yeah,
nice,
it's on
ring,
both sets of meetings. so
nice ring to
on
it. Huh?
minutes.
And then line 182, the reverse. He's same thing. He's administrator, not manager. He's manager rather, not administrator for Grafton. Evan Broussard.
Is that it?
That's it for.
Okay, and then mine were on lines 139 and 143, Abraham instead of Abrahams. Should be Abrahams. Are there any other?
It's singular, Abraham.
Okay, I just noticed it was
Yeah.
inconsistent. I
It's
thought
Matt
it was-
Abraham.
Okay.
And that's
Any other
all,
edits?
the 19th, and then 23rd, you want or not?
Sure.
Similar, line 5, town administrator versus town manager. That's it.
Okay. I move that the board approve the March 19, 2024 and March 23, 2024 open session meeting minutes as amended.
Second,
All those in favor, Dennington, aye.
Cook, eye.
Stivers, aye. Your mic-
Hamilton, I.
Okay, and then on the job description of the building commissioner, I just saw one bullet point under essential functions where it's just looks like it's a total repeat there. See that? Where it's the second bullet point serves as town zoning enforcement officer, and then the same thing was said
Yes.
in the third bullet point on the second. That's the only change that I had.
So it's in there twice.
Yep. Yep. Okay. All right, so I move that the board approve the building commissioner job description as amended.
Second,
All those in favor, Dennington, aye.
Cook, eye.
Stivers, aye.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.
Um, so turning to other matters, there's two items here that I'd kind of like to combine for discussion, which is review of the annual town meeting and planning for the fall town meeting. As they kind of go hand in glove together. I'll first just begin with, my own kind of takeaways from the town meeting and action items, and then interested in what other people think. I mean, I thought the main things that happened, one is town meeting approved the addition of the 2 additional dispatcher positions. I think another, we have kind of deferred the decision about regional dispatch until the fall town meeting, and that's going to take a lot of work to make, progress to get to that point. Just one kind of loose end, I think we got to make sure we take care of is making sure that the home rule petition for the abolishment of the Public Works Planning Board actually gets submitted to the state legislature. So I know, Mark, will you be in contact with Jay about that?
Yes.
Okay. And then, there's also just a broader issue, I think, about the fact that attendance was not very high. It was, when we did the straw poll there of the Belichick question, it was, cracking a little bit, 105.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think part of it was a function of the fact that there weren't a lot of particularly controversial things on the warrant, but also, there was some online discussion about this. And one thing that, I was disappointed to see was there's some particularly, active people who are, committed, involved in boards, who are younger people that have, smaller children who felt that they couldn't fully participate in the meeting because there wasn't childcare made available. So I think that's something that we could do to, I don't think it's probably something that presents itself for the special town meeting where the date we've tentatively set is Monday, September 23rd.
It doesn't work there because
Yeah.
if you remember old town meetings on Monday nights, parents didn't want their kids to be there till 11 o'clock at night. They had to go to
Yeah,
school the
But-
next
so
day.
I definitely think for the, what's ironic is that it was 5 years ago or so, pre-COVID, when there was actually a warrant article to change the town bylaw to move the date of town meeting to a Saturday in March with the thought that that would increase attendance, and it seems not to have done that. So I think
Yeah.
we still need to think about ways that we can increase attendance. I mean, some of the comments that I saw online were, just one second. Suggesting broader changes to the format of how town meeting works, which are really beyond our control, I think, that are, like having remote participation for town meetings. I don't know if we can do that.
Yeah.
There are so many problems with that.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going there.
Yeah. And Andrew, as I've followed this over 25 years now, basically, there's always been a lot of back pressure on the evening meetings, particularly parents with children saying, I can't make it to the meeting. And so that, in my recollection, was part of the push to get the Saturday time. And so we get the same issue there. So it's not clear to me there's a direct solution to that one, frankly. I don't know what the right answer is, but I think we've tried it both ways and we
Well,
hear the same.
We're gonna let you talk. Let us
Yeah,
talk
we're
first.
just
Okay,
just get
let
to
it,
the
let it,
board
let us get
first.
it out first and then we'll let you talk. So, it was a pretty pitiful turnout, no doubt about it. I don't know how else to describe it, but the weather didn't help either. It was a horrible day. There wasn't anything crazy on the warrant that would, bring out a big group of people like last year where you had the Algonquin, athletic redo on there and other things too that were, interesting. So, I don't think that I agree. I don't think moving it to March has done anything as far as attendance goes. In fact, some of the people that were the proponents for it weren't even there to do it in March. So I don't know if Monday, if the night really is better when you put it together than Saturday. I mean, people don't want to give up Saturday either. Two people work, they use Saturday to do all their errands, whatever. So I don't have a good solution for this.
I did think it was good to move the start time to 10 o'clock in the morning. rather
Definitely.
than 12,
Definitely.
because-
And it was 6 hours. I thought the meeting actually went well. I thought we had a good meeting. It was 6 hours. You didn't feel exhausted like the year before when we were there for 12 hours.
Basically, what we did was we passed a budget. That's pretty much what we did.
Yeah. But I mean, but there was a discussion about a few
Yep.
things, things that kind of surprised me. So there's, a lot of things did get
Yep.
discussed, but 6 hours, seemed like it was reasonable.
I think also the fact that in our select board meeting before town meeting, we made certain adjustments to what would be on the warrant articles that didn't need to be fought out on town meeting floor.
Well, we
That-
should always continue to do that.
Exactly. I think that really helped a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think we took a pretty cautious, kind of conservative approach on some of the things where we felt they're kind of not ready and they could benefit some additional time developing consensus and present them at a fall town meeting. That's what we did. And in one sense, it was also a little bit of a relief from the last 3 or 4 town meetings where some of them became, very, very contentious. And then I think that even the most controversial thing that we talked about was the dispatcher. It didn't feel like it was
No,
the tone of it was not
no,
aggressive.
we had a
or
good
nasty,
discussion, then a vote.
because we had already had a previous discussion about it anyway.
So,
Mr.
I
Chair?
went out,
Yeah, Al?
Yeah, I guess, I'm gonna take up the slightly, usual position of a lone dissent. As I have, served now for nearly a full year, I've come to realize that we are really just the custodians of this particular institution. And, it is up to us to make sure that the institution remains healthy. And I don't think the way we're currently operating town meeting is healthy. It is not representative of the town, and it is difficult for families with young children. I will point out that we haven't actually set the date for the special town meeting yet.
Yes, we
Although
have.
I don't believe we actually voted on it.
We've set up a target date.
We think
Yeah,
it's
we-
September 23rd and
haven't
then
voted,
24th.
We have not, yeah, but we have not actually voted, and, if we vote for the September 23rd, we better plan on the 24th as well, because I think there's gonna be enough on there that you're gonna go 2 nights, and I would actually suggest Saturday rather than, than Monday. I think we need to set in stone the date for the annual town meeting as early as possible. I know that we had to move it this year, and we did that rather late. And I think we need to do a much better job. You know, my proposal is that we have a noisy room where people can bring their kids and they can vote from that room and fully participate. I think that actually is a wonderful object lesson for the kids who are there. And I think we need to do a much better job of making this institution accessible to families with children who are an important part of the town, and 10, 15 years from now, we'll be inheriting they're inheriting the institution even as we speak.
So the 23rd and 24th have been set aside as far as making sure it's available. So they did do that. The bylaw says it can be no later than the last Saturday in March, but it doesn't say it's last. So we didn't move it the last time. We knew up front that Easter was that last Saturday. But
we didn't set the date in stone until sometime in, I think, January, February.
Al, just
no, it wasn't February.
one thing that I have in mind is the special town meeting that we had November 2021 was, I think, one of the most successful ones, and that was on a Monday night. It was pretty well attended, and it was let's say a 10 article fall town meeting, and let's say it went 4 hours, which by town meeting standards, that's pretty efficient.
That's lightning.
Yeah, that's fast. So, I mean, that's the model that I had in mind. I'm just not convinced that if we held it on a Saturday, the experience that we had last couple weeks ago, that it would improve, but I'm curious of your thoughts on that.
Before we do that, after this meeting, I went out to eat at a local restaurant and somebody from the town was here. And the first thing she said to me is, are you guys going to push the meeting back next time? Are you going to pass, change the bylaw to push it back? And I said, well, I have no idea. We just got out of this meeting. But that was it wasn't, the meeting went well, thought it went well. And this person was there for the whole thing and participated quite a bit. But the first comment was, are you going to now try to get it to be moved back?
Okay. You want to come up to the mic and? Yeah.
Hi, so this is my first time attending a select board meeting. My name is Mary Tinty. I'm not sure if there's any other protocols or information. My address, perfect. I live at 2 General Henry Knox Road. And I attended town meeting. I attended the whole thing. I've attended in the past few years where I could. I think once pre-COVID and then the times post-COVID when it wasn't outside. I have a daughter who is in 1st grade at Mary Finn. And in each of these instances, because we have a daughter at home, there is only one representative of my household able to come to these meetings when there is not childcare. I am not unique. That is how the entire town is. So I'm here to speak on behalf of requesting and perhaps even offering up some solutions for how to get more families out here who have a childcare issue. I think that, as was stated earlier, doing this on a weeknight would be catastrophic for kids who need to be home and in bed, and asking parents to pay for childcare to come to vote is not fair or ethical or serves the best interest of democracy. I think to move things forward, keeping things on a Saturday would be ideal. There's going to be a certain percentage of the town that is apathetic to town meeting, regardless of when you hold it. But I do think there is a large percentage of eager parents in town who simply can't make it, either one or both members of the household, because there is no childcare. So I'm going to turn things over to Andrea now, because in addition to her and Mr. Hamilton, we just want to speak to the childcare portion of it and young families.
Yeah, so Andrea Hamilton, 119 Northborough Road. I also have two young kids, a fifth grader at Neary and a first grader at Finn. I come with the same challenges that Mary does to attend. In past years, my family has hired a babysitter. It costs us $100 to attend half a town meeting, which I think everyone would consider a pretty steep barrier of entry to democracy. Last year, we were one of the few families that used the rec childcare. I've heard a lot of complaining that not enough families used it. I agree that it was low. This year, the week before, I assumed there would be childcare again. Maybe that was my mistake to not follow up, but I assume we'd done it last year. So why wouldn't we do it this year? And there'd been no announcement to the contrary. It wasn't until I reached out to the town clerk that I got confirmation that that wasn't happening. So there was no notification for that. I would suggest that I've heard, so pre-COVID is sort of before my time. My kids would have been too young to use the childcare, but I've heard that attendance was better and it was better used. So one thought I have is just that you gave it for 1 year and then disbanded it, right? Sometimes it takes a few years to bring something back. People have to know it's there. They have to know that they have access to it. Last year, it was also advertised pretty late in the game. I think I only knew about it about a week before town meeting. So again, I think there may have been more families that would have used it this year if it had become something consistent. Similarly, I really like the idea of a noisy room. Even childcare doesn't solve the problem for a lot of families, right? If you've got a baby, if you have a child with needs that don't let them easily be placed in a childcare setting, there's lots of reasons why that's still prohibitive, right? So the idea that you have a room where you can vote from and you have your kid, the town does not need to provide any childcare in that instance, but it lets parents vote. And the idea that there are parents, I know at this previous town meeting, there was a parent who showed up with a kid, didn't realize they couldn't bring them in and was turned away, and that we thought that that was like, good job on us. I mean, that's shameful. It is shameful to have a voter show up at our doors and to say, no, you don't get to vote. So this was my year to stay home. Sometimes my husband goes, sometimes I go when there's no childcare available. I didn't get to vote. So I hear everyone talking about what a success it was. I mean, I wasn't allowed in a room because I couldn't come with my kids. That's not a success to me. That's me being barred from democracy. So I think that's something we need to take really seriously. And the notion that because only 5 families use childcare, I mean, that's in a room of 100, that's potentially 10 people that get to vote. That's a huge percentage that didn't get it. So I feel pretty strongly about the barriers that exist. I agree that I think weeknights will be challenging for a lot of families, especially those with the youngest kids. I would also say that when we think about what's coming up in the fall, the people most impacted, my first grader is probably not going to be in a new Neary, right? Like we're talking about the people with the youngest of young kids at home. Those are the people that can't come out on a weeknight. You are not going to get attendance from the people whose kids are going to be in this new building if you do it on a weeknight, because they are home putting their kids to bed at 8 o'clock. So I think you have to really seriously consider what the demographic is that you're trying to get. It should be a cross-representative section. I was there on the Monday night meeting you guys talked about. I'd be really curious what the demographics of that meeting looked like. I did expect it was more representative. I expect you still didn't get a lot of the young families. When I think about solutions, again, thinking about the childcare, thinking about the noisy room, those are all kind of stopgaps. I agree with Mary that you're still going to have a number of folks who just are apathetic to the process, who are never going to come. It's not great, but when democracy is not working in one way, I think it is on those of us who care about it to think about other ways it can work. I think some of those childcare things, I don't believe they need a committee. I think those are just do it items. I would love to see a committee put together to look at what it would mean to truly move us to a representative town meeting model instead of the model we have now, which I think would be much more representative of the town in general. I know we had a committee a few years ago. My understanding of that committee was that they had a pretty broad mandate, and so they were looking at lots of different things in parallel. I think that's where we got the March date out of. I would prefer to see a committee that was looking exclusively at the representative model, and giving the town a real understanding of what it would mean, what it would take to move to that, what it would mean in terms of representatives, of numbers, what that would mean for your voting, what new town meeting would look like under that, so that instead of sort of talking about it in the abstract, people have an actual understanding of what that would mean and what the pros and cons would be.
So are you thinking representative such as what Framingham does?
Yes.
Like Shrewsbury, right? Shrewsbury has representative town meeting.
Wellesley does as well.
Yeah, lots of towns around you, right? So you basically district the town and you have a single representative from the different neighborhoods who come and vote in town meeting.
It usually applies to much bigger towns, but I'm all game for it. I am skeptical that this is going to solve the problem. I think the problem's bigger than this. So I don't know how you deal with the overall apathy. But I think the noisy room sounds like a pretty good idea. I like that one. Jim Haggerty is about to put, he's requested data from the state for the last 20 years. He's going to give us a report to show the composition of who's gone the last 20 years, so we can kind of look at that and have some data behind us. Thanks for doing this. We definitely need more than 105 people at a town meeting, so we all agree that's not. So by successful, just to be clear, I'm not saying it was success because of the number of people there, that clearly wasn't, but it just, everything went along, you know, the actual just logistics went fine. We know that nothing blew up and we got through in a reasonable amount of time.
Yes.
So that's what I mean by success, is that piece of it.
And I just wanted to speak to one more thing related to the quiet. I think, just to be clear, it would be amazing if the noisy room and the, I don't know, separate loud room of kids playing basketball and doing crafts and whatever, those should ideally happen in tandem. We're not asking for one or the other. We're proposing that those serve two separate needs and would be amazing. And then just, I wanted to comment on the clickers at town meeting too, because I thought that they were so unique. I loved that we practiced using them. I thought they were great. And then we didn't need them. However, it was also said that for anyone who was in the cafeteria or outside of that main room, you were not going to be able to vote unless you came back in. And so that's going to need to get addressed for parents and overflow and all that other stuff. I know the clickers were kind of an expense. They're really cool. It would be great if everyone who came in and was of voting age got a clicker and could vote from wherever they were. That would be really important to not make parents move back and forth.
I think by a noisy room, and are you thinking about like a room where it's simulcast, you can watch what's going on, so then, and I just don't know technologically, I understand. I mean, when I asked a question about why you had to kind of surrender your clicker when you left a room was like a voting security thing. But I don't know if there's a technological.
It wouldn't reach,
Um,
it wouldn't reach either.
Signal
It
would-
Yes, a
reach.
signal wouldn't
Signal
reach.
would
Yeah.
only reach.
No, that's an easy thing to fix.
Exactly.
But you know-
The noisy room is no different than an overflow room from a technology perspective. It is an overflow room in effect.
So the November 21 special town meeting that Andrew referred to, remember, that was our first inside COVID meeting. We'd had the two outdoor ones, so it was inside. So he spread us around in the gym of Trotter and the auditorium of Trotter, but the meeting was in the gym of Trotter, right? And so they just had one person over there counting votes and they had personal side. So it can definitely be done, even if you can't use a clicker, you can just have somebody there. And then I guess if it's close, that'd be an issue as far as clickers go, but I think that's probably doable too.
Yep.
So-
I'd be shocked if you couldn't, set up a remote clicker station.
Yep.
Well, that's your business, Al, so tell them,
Yeah.
get it done, so.
The other thing that occurs to me is, I mean, I listen to you and I say, okay, Saturday, noisy room, childcare, all right. If someone's, I'm in a noisy room with their kid, they may want to talk too. I mean, that's another,
Important part of town meeting.
do we need, you know?
It's no different than an overflow room where people from an overflow room have a microphone. They have a video link and they can speak just the same as anyone from the hall.
Yep.
We've done overflow rooms in the past
We did,
and,
November 21 was
Yeah.
when we did it.
and
And I agree that if childcare is something that people expect every time, then that's a good thing, but not randomly. Yeah.
But we've had the Saturday meetings, we had one of those before COVID, so there was one Saturday, then we did the last two, and we had childcare for 2 of the 3, and I can tell you, no one took us up on it. So that's why we're willing to listen.
Not nobody, we did.
Okay, no, okay, but you know what I mean, not many,
Very
not many.
few, yeah.
So very few.
So I'd be very interested in seeing what happened if the childcare came back and you ran it for like 5 years. So that word of mouth,
People knew it.
people knew about it, people could bank on it. And a big part of that too is social, right? So if you know your kid's gonna have some friends there, that makes it easier for your kid to sit there.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything further?
Okay,
Okay.
Appreciate the opportunity to share this. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll also just go through my quick list of possible items for special fall town meeting that I think came out of the last meeting. MBTA communities, regional dispatch, Public Works Advisory Committee, and I want to talk about that a little bit further. Any recommendations that come from the public safety staffing study, particularly for the police lieutenant position. In reviewing the minutes from the last meeting, we have to put on the list the Atwood lead funding.
Yep.
Possibly the culverts, stuff that Bill's studying now. He may have to come, he may
Okay.
come back and say he's got to, we now need the money to fix it.
And Sam, do you think, is there any update on the National Grid property? This would really be the last chance.
Yeah, not 100%, but I'm still working. I've found another contact at National Grid that I'm going to pursue.
Okay,
So,
because that goes together with
Yeah,
the
yeah. The
the
wastewater. thing, so,
wastewater that
yeah,
we're talking
absolutely, yeah.
about.
So, I mean, I think that it's possible to acquire that if we're prepared to pay the assessed value for it. What I'm trying to do is find a way that we can pay less than the assessed value, so. But frankly, I still think it's a wise purchase, but I don't have the money.
And time is ticking on our.
That's right, exactly, yep, so.
So two more that would go on this list, if, you know, the excellent advisory letter that was written this year.
Yep.
There's two things that they are strongly advocating to be considered, and one doesn't necessarily has to go through town meeting. It could. But the first one is the consideration of forming a stormwater enterprise fund, like a lot of towns have.
Yep.
So Andrew Pfaff is going to come in front of select board sometime soon to explain. He's done a whole lot of work. He's got a lot of numbers to talk about that one. Then the second one is increasing the CPA surtax from 1 to 3. Of course, Al may want to say 0, but there is a chunk of the new school that would qualify for CPA. So there's a laundry list of stuff that could qualify. So again, you either go through town meeting to get to the ballot, or you collect signatures to get to the ballot, one or the other. So this is not something necessarily select board would lead the charge on, but we at least need to talk about it.
Yep.
So we understand where we come down on it.
And I would point out.
Yeah,
that
I have
Wellesley-
2 as well.
Okay,
Hang on. One is moving the affordable housing money from the CPC to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
yes.
Yep.
And the second one is restructuring the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and ShopSee.
Yes.
And Al,
I'm
about
going to
that,
be meeting on the 23rd with the CPC committee to discuss the former.
okay, I was just gonna ask you about that because the last time we mentioned this, I think CPC had invited the select board, and then we decided, you know, really it should go to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee to participate in a meeting on April 25th, and I realized that's candidates night, so I was gonna find out what the other new date was. It's the 22nd?
I believe it's the 25th. I haven't been told differently.
Okay, well, just for my own personal reasons, and anyone that would be wished to attend candidates night, that's not a good date.
Yeah, we should find an
I'll
alternate.
reach out to the CPA and see if they're willing to change.
Because I'd like to be there too. So would you too, I assume?
Yep,
We can all
yep.
talk.
Okay. And
All right,
then,
then.
and then Al, as part of restructuring Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee, would you also consider restructuring ShopSee so that it works more seamlessly? You know, we have,
Well, I think we need to have one committee, not 2.
I agree with Al.
Yep. Which Lisa Brascio had suggested.
She
under
did. Lisa
way-
Brascio suggested looking at the Westboro model. You suggested Lexington.
Yeah.
So there's models out there, Al, that
Yeah.
seem to do a much better job than we do at getting something done.
Back up 1 second, Kathy, just comment that for Mr. Pfaff's suggestion for a stormwater enterprise fund, Wellesley has just implemented that for FY25. As a matter of fact, it's pretty interesting to see what they did there. So there's a model that one could look at, and they're allegedly another 15 or 20 communities who've done that as well. So
How does that work compared to what we're doing now, which is nothing?
Well, it's probably a little early to talk details, but long story short,
Yeah.
you look at the impervious surface that an entity owns and you assess it based on that being the numerator, the total being the denominator. But it applies to everyone, not just taxable entities, so everyone, tax exempt entities, et cetera. So it's a way to truly spread that cost out over a bigger denominator than what we currently do.
All right, any other?
That's a lot.
it'll be busy. Yep.
For a
That's,
special.
I counted that's 10.
Yeah.
Which is a good.
Yeah, but they're all substantive. There's nothing easy. I mean, none of those, there's nothing to check, no, that's easy.
Yeah, but I think, well, some of these are a little bit financial in nature, right?
Yeah.
We've tried to not have things that are financial in nature, but I like the special town meeting format. you
Oh,
know,
I do
it's-
too.
it's-
Me too.
It's not a 3-hour meeting though, probably.
I don't think so.
Yes,
And with Woodland Road, I just wanted to suggest that you add the one that fell off. This one, which is to get rid of our defunct Consumer Advisory Committee.
I was about to mention that, Tim, but it seemed to be so, yeah, so yes, so that'll be our easy one.
if you have others that you think we should consider getting rid of, that's. Yes, we are.
Our
trying to-
consultant recommended that, yes.
Yeah. All right.
So you're going to discuss the PWAC?
I think probably makes sense to have a more fulsome discussion maybe at a future meeting, but, I'll just say, I think John Butler raised the question, why do you believe that this new committee will be successful when the prior one failed? And I don't think the answer is just, oh, well, one's a town bylaw committee and one's a state created committee. So, and it, each year we have a goal. We need to not create more committees. We need to streamline things, and then we create more committees. So where does it start, And here, even the debate about the sunset provision where it looks like, the intent would be, this would be another kind of permanent committee, and you could do where you have particular public works projects, you want you think the select board thinks that we could get input from, you could create just little small ad hoc committees to do that rather than having the standing committee. And it also brings up the question of, I remember Karen talking about this. Okay, so if the Public Works Planning Board was really gonna ramp up. Now, for a public works project, you need to go to 4 different boards to vet it before it goes to town meeting. You'd go to the select board, the advisory committee, the capital improvement planning committee, and the PWP-PWAC. That's just a recipe for, obviously, one of the 4 is gonna disagree or have some conflict with it. It's not a very efficient system.
I'd like to get Bill Cundiff in here and hear what he's got to say. I just want to make sure that this board supports that man. So he can truly do the job that he clearly can do. So I kind of want to hear from him again, and see at this point, now that he knows more about the town than when we first asked him, what he thinks as far as whether this is something that he wants and could find useful for him.
But Andrew, I do think there's value in having a committee that actually has technical expertise, which we've not had in the recent past, at least in terms of the Public Works Planning Board. So I think if we appoint people who actually have technical expertise in areas that are helpful to DPW, I think that could be very helpful for the superintendent there. But-
There was technical expertise on that previous one.
Yeah.
It didn't get used, right? But
Some, yeah.
the two gentlemen certainly had it.
I agree with Kathy. It would be good to talk to the DPW head and see what he would find would make his job easiest.
Yep. And we have had some of that conversation. He's been supportive of the committee, actually. But
So as I said, one of the follow-ups from town meeting spoke that we think we should hire 2 additional dispatchers. Although I think there's, we've always understood there's probably challenges in actually filling these positions. I think that given the town meeting vote, that it makes sense to begin advertising for these positions. seeing, what applications come in. One of the things I would be concerned about is if there was a significant public safety incident where there was a question about whether it was handled correctly from a dispatch perspective, and the select board had not acted to appropriate the money that town meeting had passed. I think that would look very bad. So I'm curious what other, as much as, I was not hoping for that outcome at town meeting, it basically made sense. And I think the point which carried the day with people is even if the most rapid way of regionalizing would be still a couple of years. And, Chief Achilles, Chief Newell did say, we think we have a problem now. That I understand why town meeting was basically convinced to do what Mrs. Fanoff suggested. And I think it was good that she, reduced her original ask from 4 to 2.
She did.
Yep. Yep.
So I
think-
agree with you. If the money's been, it's there. Yes, town meeting doesn't hire, but it's there. And I think it would circumvent what town meeting was asking us to do if we didn't do that. So I agree. We forge forward.
I also agree.
Al?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, town meeting said they weren't real happy about regionalization and they put their money where their mouth is.
Well,
This is one piece of the tax burden that we don't have to be responsible for. Somebody else told us to spend this money.
okay, well, just,
But we'll
Yeah.
still get criticized for it, so. that's okay.
Yeah, it comes with the
Al,
territory.
when you said town meeting said they weren't, I think I didn't hear that coming from the annual town meeting this year. Maybe.
No, this was last
Okay,
year.
Last year.
Last
All
year.
right, just to be clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just heard that town meeting would like us to hiring dispatchers as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, so I make a motion that the board approve putting out for advertisement the job openings for the 2 new dispatcher positions.
Second,
All right, Dennington, aye.
Cook, aye.
Stivers, aye.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.
Okay, anything else on follow-ups from town meeting or planning for special town meeting?
So just to get this off the table once and for all, is there any interest in changing the date of the annual town meeting to something no later than the last Saturday in March?
Yes,
Your list.
okay.
The advantage of doing it, we've got more time, right? You know how pushed we are trying to get this done. And if there really is no benefit to getting more people there, then why would we do it so early?
Yep.
Although I'm not sure we had like a better budget process. I mean, the COVID years. We
We
just
did for the COVID
delayed
years.
the hard decisions until right before that meeting. This is like
Well, we do get some numbers that we don't have. I mean, there's estimates in this budget that we'd have by then. So it does help with the numbers
Yeah.
to have.
I'm interested in, I'm not sold on it yet, but I mean, anything we can do to tinker with this to improve attendance.
I think one of the things that we should do is if we obviously we can't do this unless there's a bylaw that changes it. But I think we need to make it clear that other town activities are of secondary importance.
And by that, do you mean we should not open up our facilities for events on town meeting date?
I think we should give it serious consideration.
I do too.
Yep. So if we did this, we would potentially have article at the special town meeting to change that bylaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be easy to
Yeah,
change.
I'm certainly open to that.
Maybe we wait for Jim's report as far as the last 20 years of who went to it and use that kind of as our basis for trying to get this figured out.
Okay.
Beth Mello and I think her summary said, I'm doing this with tongue in cheek, but maybe you want to always put something controversial on there to get people to come out. Just put it on there.
Yeah.
Maybe put a budget that's going to double your taxes or do this one instead.
I got a better one. How about do we have a tax on small children?
Okay, there you go.
Oh, Westboro actually had an article for $1,000 bonus for people who had a baby born in Westboro. I don't know if it passed or not, but.
All right, Tim?
So for what it's worth, before this, we often had town meeting right around tax time, you know. April
Tim, could you speak a
Tell me
little
about it,
closer to
Tim.
the mic?
Sorry.
Yes, we had it April 15th for a long, long, long
We
time.
tended to have it around tax day, April 15th, you know, usually just a little bit before.
Mhm.
So if we think of a new date, I would encourage us to think of something, you know, a couple of days after, because, you know, there are always people who are doing their last minute paperwork.
Agree.
And then I think town election is what, the first or second Tuesday in May?
May,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you want to get it before that in case anything goes to an override. So that's kind of the window.
Yeah.
So the last Saturday in March is not good?
That's what the bylaw says, no later than the last Saturday in March.
I thought it was okay. I mean, the warmer the weather gets, the more people want to play game.
Yeah, but look, and when the weather's bad too, look what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think this is a conundrum we'll be
I
able
don't
to
either.
resolve
I
tonight.
know.
So I'm prepared to move on to some of the other items under other
Yep.
matters. Okay. So Mark, do you want to just give the intro on plans for the recruitment for the building commissioner vacancy and then also Gene Novak's appointment?
Sure, yeah, so for the purposes of discussion, we'll just take the next two items together. So as the board is aware, our building commissioner, Casey Burlingame, submitted his resignation on March 22nd, provided a 2-week notice and is using vacation time for the remainder of that. His last official day in the position, at least on the books, is this Friday, April 5th. In the interim, Gene Novak has been handling as much as he can in his part-time capacity. He is our part-time building inspector. Gene is retired from many years working as a state inspector. He's fully certified, you know, could be a commissioner based on all of his certifications. And so what I'm seeking from the board tonight is kind of a two-prong approach. Given that we technically do not have a vacancy until after this Friday, April 5th, would like to appoint Gene Novak as the acting building commissioner through April 5th. And then effective April 6th would be the interim building commissioner. And I just checked the differences with Labor Council just to make sure that I was saying it correctly. But that way he will be able to act in the capacity he needs to for zoning enforcement. And you know, for the short period until the position is actually vacated officially by Mr. Burlingame, and then would become the interim. He is going to be right now, he's working 2 days a week. He's going to be working somewhere between 3 and 4 days a week, depending on, you know, how many inspections are needed, plan review, things of that nature. Has already begun having meetings with the staff in the office just to understand, you know, and get himself up to speed on some of these things. So really appreciate his willingness to step up and help us in having the capacity to be able to do that. So we will have, you know, good coverage in that respect.
Is he limited in terms of hours? Because
As a retiree, yes, it's hours, but it's also
Yeah.
money,
Okay.
right? So
So if we pay him less, or-
yeah, that conversation didn't go as well as you think it might. But I think what we want to do is be careful so as not to overuse him in the
Yeah,
short term and
yeah.
then not have him be very, very limited
right.
for the
later-
remainder
later
of
on.
the year. So,
Exactly.
you know, so that's kind of where we are with that. In terms of the recruitment piece for the building commissioner vacancy, I've heard from some of you, there may be an interest, of seeing if we want to have Community Paradigm, otherwise known as Bernie, to do the recruitment for this position. You know, I know that we've just finished up, you know, a bunch of recruitments for non-management positions, you know, and things like that. I'm fully open to that. If the board would like to go in that direction, I would suggest the approach that we did, I believe, when we did the recruitment for the fire chief, in that the board give me authorization to engage Community Paradigm up to a certain dollar amount. I would suggest $10,000. I don't believe it's going to get to that amount. But so that with this vote tonight, we can begin to move quickly. I did have a conversation with Bernie Lynch, and he does, feel that, he can be successful in getting this position filled for us.
Good. And as I recall previously, Bernie had been forthright in terms of telling you that I don't think there's much opportunity for this one, so I don't want to take your money if I'm not going to be. able to get
Absolutely.
something here. So-
Yeah, yeah, Bernie's never said he never wanted to take our money, but he was forthright, as you say, that, that really he was not going to be able to do much more, given the candidate pool at the time that he was aware of,
Yeah.
than we could do on our own.
Again, I think, he's got a strong vested interest in doing a good job on this because this is his business. He's been in it for quite a while and wants to continue. So I'm confident that he's our best shot at this point in terms of getting a strong candidate.
So Mr. Chairman, I don't know how you want to
Okay.
take these, whether you want to do
Well,
the.
first, let's take,
Appointments.
yeah, I move that we appoint Gene Novak as the interim building commissioner.
Do you want to do the first acting?
Acting and then in.
Yeah.
Okay, I move that we appoint Gene Novak as acting building commissioner
Through April 5th.
through April 5th.
Second,
Dennington, I.
Cook, aye.
Stivers, aye.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.
All right. And then you're also looking for a motion for,
A motion to appoint him as interim building commissioner,
April 6th.
effective 4/6.
I move that we appoint Gene Novak as the interim building commissioner effective April 6th.
Second,
Dennington, I.
Cook, aye.
Stivers, aye.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.
Okay, and then, I think Community Compact is Community Paradigm
Yes.
has had a good, track record so far. So even though, this position is not as big or as high profile as the other ones I do think it makes sense to proceed with Community Paradigm.
This is a really important position, though. in
Yeah,
a lot
it
of
is.
ways. I don't think we've done a bang up job on
Yeah.
this one for a long time, actually.
Yeah.
So this would be great if we.
Well, we've had some turnover in the
Wrong.
position.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
we
mean,
have
I,
someone that comes in and stays for-
and I do want to make sure, I mean, Ms. Hale has done a nice job, in many of our recruitments, for an awfully long time. But the climate has changed significantly out there with retirements and really just, a lack of candidates. And, we have conversations all the time about, trying to improve our diversity in our candidates and, in our employee base. And, we just look at each other and say, it's hard enough to find qualified candidates, and we're looking at diversity, we're trying to do these things. So I think things have changed. So I'm, less adverse to, to using these outside firms who, can spend a lot more time, on this than we may have available.
Yep. Al? Yeah?
Might I offer a long-term suggestion? Which is, I think this is probably Mark and Andrew, as we talk to our state reps, maybe we should point out that the labor market has changed substantially, and the restrictions on using public sector retirees ought to be reevaluated, given that, they do represent a deep pool of subject matter knowledge, which is becoming harder and harder to recruit in the marketplace.
There was actually an interesting story in the Boston Globe just within the past week or so, which kind of touched on that topic a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not sure if something was actually filed. Okay, Ms. Hale shaking her head, yes. So there was actually something filed to get rid of the cap altogether on retirees for hours and for pay.
Wow.
To basically allow us to more freely use that resource. And it's being met with stone silence or stiff resistance, you pick. So it's being put out there, and we'll
Who-
see.
Who's against that one?
Well, I think,
I'm not sure.
so reading the article in the Globe, it was really about how there's a whole system of self-reporting for these caps, which there's not a way that people really police this, but
Yeah.
they're explaining the original intent of these rules was to prevent a situation where somebody like they retire and then they start collecting a pension, and they go back right into the exact same job. So
Yeah.
they get that type of double dip. You know, you could consider that a double dip, but this is something a little, what we're talking about here is something
Yeah.
different.
I don't see that as a double dip necessarily. I mean, but,
You know, the whole pension system has got issues.
Right.
You know, people, spend, it's based on your last 3 years, right? Your highest pay. And so people will leave one job and go to another job just to make high pay
Increase.
for 3 years and get a big pension. Billy Bolger did that. That's why he went to
Yeah.
UMass, right?
Yep.
So anyway, I think that's a great idea, Al, to talk to them and say that, it really is hard to hire people in a lot of places right now. And these guys are experienced.
expertise, yeah.
Yep.
So are we voting on community paradigm? Do we vote on that?
I agree. We should, I am supporting it. I think we
Yeah,
should.
So yes, I would just suggest if the board wants to authorize me to engage Community Paradigm for building commissioner recruitment for a contract amount not to exceed $10,000.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor, Dennington, aye?
Cook, aye.
Stivers, aye.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's hard to go to a Zoom meeting. We're not used to it, isn't it? To
Yeah.
do it that way.
Okay, so update and status of regional dispatch. You know, I've thought of just from this point forward, just keeping this as kind of a standing item on our agenda so that we can hopefully be prepared to have a presentation at fall town meeting. Al, I know you had wanted to have this as a members report item, and I just moved it under other matters so that we
Yep.
could.
That, no problem at all. So Sam and I met with Mark and the chiefs after it's sort of debrief from our Westboro meeting, which was good. The chiefs we're going to be meeting with the leaders of the fire department in the next couple weeks. Do something similar to what we did with the lieutenant and the sergeants. We the two chiefs are out right now polling their peers to really try and get their take on what it takes to be a successful rec. We had a long discussion about Westboro, which certainly on its face appears to be the most attractive option. I think the biggest concern that everyone had is that they don't have an executive director, and so there's no real region there yet. It's really being driven out of the Westboro Fire Department. More power to them, but there's no sense yet that we have a functioning region. And there was a real concern, at least my concern, about the need to actually market this product so that we can get to critical mass. I'm going to be doing a survey of a few recs in Massachusetts to see if we can get some idea of how scale affects the economics. But I think we need to be making a decision about the direction we're going to go. This is my personal take, no later than the end of May, early June, so that we can then do public forums and outreach, because if our intent is to win a vote at town meeting, we need to get more people at town meeting, and B, we need to educate the people that come to town meeting about why this is the right decision for our community, assuming that we come to that conclusion.
So Al, that sounds way optimistic to me. If you want, if I'm going to vote for this, which I didn't last time, the same questions I had last time are still not answered. I will put them on a piece of paper for you two, for Sam and you. But for example, to start with Westboro, Westboro last year, that consortium, those two towns asked for a $12 million grant. We knew that there was only $40 million available that year, and we knew they weren't going to get 12. And plus the 12 was just kind of made up. They didn't spend a lot of time figuring out that number. We know the fire chief there wants to get rid of dispatch under him, and therefore, get it out from under him as fast as he can. So you're going to have to do a lot more work as far as understanding how that one gets built out to get my support, because I don't want to get stuck with a bunch of capital here that we didn't intend to, which is why the existing recs appeal to me because we know what we're getting into. So you're gonna have to make a case, at least
Yep.
to get me to vote as far as why Westboro really is, and show me you really understand how the numbers are gonna work out. They missed this year's grant, so they're gonna have to wait till next year. They won't get it to July 1st of 25. So this idea that it's gonna be up in 2 years, they don't even get the money to July 1st of 25. It's not gonna be up in 2 years. And so I think there's a whole lot of work in detail and data you're gonna have to provide to the select board to truly allow us to make a decision. Forget town meeting yet. We've got to get to the point that we think it's the right thing to do.
One thing that we did do when we were interviewing the fire chiefs, and you guys probably saw this, we picked the 5 chiefs brains, and they were all quite positive about joining a rec. You know, I'll make the pitch that they told me was right now the best rec in the state is Holbrook. And I know Sam has some concerns about Holbrook, and but that is certainly in my mind a second choice, and another choice would be Neshoba. A third choice, quite frankly, is you know, to say to Westboro, you're not ready, and we're not going to join until we see something, you know, much more substantive. I agree with you, Kathy, that you know we need to have a serious heart to heart with those folks about, you know, are you actually serious about doing this?
And, you know, I think that the economies of scale are there so that if you know, if you look at the Collins report, you'll see it there that, you know, 6 or 7 really does make sense, but 3, not necessarily. You can't get too excited about the money there. So I just want to make sure we really do understand this, before we say this is what we should go, and town meeting, here we are as far as, what we believe, and this is why we believe, before we get asked questions we can't answer.
Yep.
Yep. And again, I think, you know, May, June is aggressive, but I think we need to act like there's a great
Just
time.
remember, you
pressure.
get into the summer and then things really slow down.
Yep. Well, in many places, but working group
Yep.
can slow down.
Well, May is next month. June,
Yep.
you know, at least is another month, but May is next month.
And one of the upsides of, you know, if Metro West Rec hasn't hired a executive director yet, is that if we join, then we have a say in selecting who the executive director is. Do you
Maybe.
agree?
Maybe. I mean, they've got, remember, they've got an AMA and we're not part
Know
of
that.
it. They have a group already, so you know, we'd have to probably formally join.
Well, we have a say if they have an executive director.
Pardon me, what do you say, Al?
We have a say if they have an executive director, because otherwise we have no one to act through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gives us more of a say, as a matter of fact, in some ways.
Yeah.
All right, anything further on this?
And we did ask Mark to put out some feelers.
So the last 2 items on the agenda are related to the St. Mark's Street Park. Item F. Yeah, I thought we had voted on this. that-
We took a look through, and
was here.
Kathy, I'm right with you, but we looked through, the working group had voted on the name Southborough
Yeah.
Heritage Park. And we found, we went back through select board meetings, found the agenda item, and the last word on the matter was from Mr. Dennington, which basically said that we would take this up at a future meeting, and we haven't.
Okay.
And so belt and
Regardless,
suspender,
let's.
belt and
So I
suspenders.
move- I move that the select board,
I just want, I'm not seeing all
that we name what used to be called the St. Mark's Street Park, the Southborough Heritage Park.
Second,
All those in favor, Dennington, aye.
Cook eye.
Stivers, aye.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.
Oh, Al.
What, did he vote yes?
No, you did, but not very enthusiastically.
Yeah, it was with less than enthusiasm.
That was a slow eye.
Same enthusiasm Marty Healy had for select board.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever. Okay, now the next one's the best one.
yes. Kathy, do you want to make a reason?
With Marguerite's help.
Sure.
Okay, Marguerite's help. Okay, so this, we've got a request from both the school committee on which Kim Tollander served and from Youth and Family Services, who knew Kim very well because of the work she did, to dedicate one of the park benches by installing a plaque in her memory. As everyone will probably remember, unfortunately, and she's in her thirties and she died. Suddenly, she'd been in the hospital, came home and died that day. She left a young child, her husband. And so this has been kind of percolating for a while. Youth and Family Services gives an award every year in honor of Lori Sugarman Whittier. And Kim got it posthumously last year, and her family was so thrilled about that. When they heard about this, they were thrilled to death too. So to me, this is one of the nicest things about being on the select board. We can do stuff like this. Again, we can't bring her back, but we can certainly do this for her.
Mhm. Yep, I strongly support this as well.
All right.
Great, you want to say anything?
I think it's very appropriate, and also would be nice to, when it occurs, to have some type of, dedication ceremony, but
And we probably need to start talking about getting a sign for the park, but we can do that at a later meeting, maybe get a store to do that too. So can I make this motion?
yes.
So I make a motion to dedicate one of the Southborough Heritage Park benches in memory of Kim Tollander
The
Second,
plaque as
with a plaque, yes.
proposed by Youth and Family.
second. All those in favor, Dennington, aye?
Cook, aye.
Stivers, aye.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.
All right. Is there any public comment?
See any hands? None?
Okay. seeing-
Question, have we settled on a date for the fall special town meeting?
I think what came out of the discussion was no, but just remember.
We thought we
that
had.
The
Maybe not.
the date of September 23rd, that came out of checking with.
MBTA communities.
Yep, that was the
Yeah.
90.
And that's what they
It's a
think.
balance between enough time so that the planning board can do the 90-day kind of pre-clearance from the state. And then the fact that you probably can't go past, I don't remember the exact date, into like the second week of October due to early voting with the presidential election.
Mhm.
Jim Hegarty, he had a vacation scheduled coming up earlier in September. So there's this kind of window that, wasn't just accidental that we came up with that in
No,
mind.
It was 9/23 to October 5th is what he gave us.
Yeah, I think
So-
what we were talking about there was having it on a Monday, on a weeknight, or on a weekend instead.
And 9/28 is a Saturday in that zone, so that's
Yeah.
based on tonight's conversation, potential maybe.
I think you just need to double check with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur
Another.
We've
and
already
a
done,
couple
that's
others.
that's already been done.
Yeah,
So
that-
Jim's done that.
Okay.
Does not interfere. and
That's
he's
later.
checked- Knows that the
Yeah.
23rd and 24th work. He did not check on the 28th. He
28th, yeah.
can.
So it's gonna be either the weekend of the 23rd or the weekend, the week of the it's 23,
23rd and
24.
Worked as far as the Jewish holidays, as far as charter
Mhm.
goes. 28th hasn't been checked.
Okay.
Okay, so no public comment? All right, I move that we adjourn.
Second,
All right, Dennington, aye.
Cook, aye.
Stivers, aye.
Landry, I.
Hamilton, I.